Hey everyone, it's John Literal here, and I just want to make an announcement that I've just now published another book. It's been a translation project of a Bible commentary on one of the Old Testament deuterocanonical books called The Wisdom of Solomon. And this commentary on the Wisdom of Solomon is by a 9th century Carolingian by the name of Rabanus Maurus. And Rabanus was born at the very end of the early church father era. The last of the early church fathers was Bede and John of Damascus. Bede, I think, died around 739 AD, and John of Damascus died 10 years after that at 749 AD. But Rabanus was born not long after the death of the last church fathers. So technically, he's not considered to be an early church father, even though that his writings and his commentaries are very much at the same type and same level as the early church fathers. In fact, I'll go over some information here in a minute that explains that he loved the early church fathers and he did as much as possible to glean from them for his own writings. Now, the Book of Wisdom, which this commentary is on, is an Old Testament deuterocanonical book, and some Protestants even accept it in their canon, but a lot of Protestants will, they call it apocryphal. That is part of the Apocrypha of the Old Testament, which means that they don't believe that it's at the same level as the other books of the Bible. But there were a lot of ancient Christians that did consider the Book of Wisdom to be Scripture. And in my opinion, I mean, I've read and studied the Book of Wisdom throughout the years, and I've always loved this book. It's very impressive. It's great for instruction, for holiness, for wisdom, of course. And also, the Book of Wisdom has prophecies that go into great detail about Jesus. So this was written well before Jesus came, and you will definitely find prophecies that are specifically about Christ, which is just another part of this book that which makes me, I've always loved it. But anyway, Rabanus, he was from the 9th century, and this commentary on the Book of Wisdom by Rabanus is the very first commentary that was written on this book. Now, there is another writer that Rabanus, in his preface, mentions that, he said he supposedly wrote something, but he never has found it. And as far as I know, that writing has never been discovered. So Rabanus is the very first. It's the oldest Bible commentary that we have on the Book of Wisdom. And so in this book, what I did is I also added excerpts from the early church fathers to go along with this commentary, because I originally was going to create a catena, a commentary with a bunch of different excerpts that explain the meaning of the text of wisdom. But as I started into this, and I started taking quotes from Rabanus for this commentary, and I thought, I'm just going to go ahead and translate the entire commentary by Rabanus, and then just add excerpts from early church fathers. So in my introduction, I'm just going to read it because it gives some information about this commentary, and to let people know what's in it, what it's about, and I will provide links in the description box below where you can read it free on archive.org, and also you can buy it for only $9.99 on Amazon and in print, and you can also get the Kindle version on Amazon for only $5.99. So I put my prices at the lowest that I can possibly put it for all my books, because I'm in this not for the money whatsoever. I'm in it to just share information, knowledge, and works from the early parts of Christianity, from the early church fathers, and how they interpret the Bible. It's just one of those things that I've always had a great passion for. And it's all about, to me, it's all about just getting these works, making them available for those who want to learn Scripture at a much deeper level. So I'm going to go ahead and read the introduction to this. So this work originally began as a catena on the deuterocanonical Old Testament book called the Wisdom of Solomon, which quickly developed into a complete translation of the commentary on the Wisdom of Solomon by Rabanus Maurus, with added excerpts by the early church fathers. I did make some modifications to the text of the commentary by using the Greek Septuagint version of the scripture text of the Wisdom of Solomon instead of the Latin version used by Rabanus. Rabanus used the Latin Vulgate for the scripture text in his commentary, which has some minor differences from the Greek Septuagint, such as in the readings and in verse numbering on some occasions. This translation of the commentary by Rabanus on the Wisdom of Solomon is the first ever English translation as far as I'm aware of. Rabanus is the first person to write a commentary on the Wisdom of Solomon. Many of the commentaries by Rabanus have not been translated into English at this point. I also translated most of the other excerpts from the early church fathers in this commentary. I found most of those excerpts in the 1601 Venice edition of the Glossa Ordinaria. That edition has the glosses of the original Glossa Ordinaria with the addition of added excerpts from a variety of church fathers. I adopted nearly all of those added excerpts from the Venice edition gloss, which many of them have not been translated until now. Here are those names of the 12 sources found and adopted into this commentary. So I used Augustine of Hippo. He lived between 354 and 430 AD. Augustine's, probably the most popular of all early church fathers. There's also, I did find an excerpt from John Chrysostom. He died in 407 AD. Also, Ambrose of Milan died 397 AD. Then a church father by the name of Anastasius of Sinai. He lived between 620 and 700 AD. Then Vigilius of Thapsus, who lived in the 5th century. I also have a couple of excerpts, 2 or 3, from Jerome of Stridon, who died in 420 AD. Then I've got some excerpts from a Cyrillus of Castellum Ripense, who lived around 480 AD. I also have excerpts from Gregory the Great, who died in 604 AD. Then also a church father by the name of Victor Vitensis, who lived between 430 and 486 AD. I also have an excerpt from Didymus of Alexandria, also called Didymus the Blind, who lived between 313 and 398 AD. And then an excerpt from Eusebius of Caesarea, who died in 339 AD. And then last but not least, I've got at least 2 or 3 excerpts from Ambrosiaster, who lived around 370 AD. So I'm going to read just no, I'm not going to read this other part of the introduction. There's just too much to it. I just want to make this video fairly brief. And like I said, I'm going to leave links in the description box below to where you can purchase it. You can buy it in print, Kindle, or you can read it online for free on archive.org. And if you have any trouble, because I know with archive.org, big tech platforms like YouTube and Facebook, they use AI to block some of those, to break the links to archive.org. So if you want to read it and find it for sure, just get on archive.org and just type my name, John Littoral, into the search, and all my works will come up. Every book that I've written and published, even essays and articles that I've written and published, they're all available for free on archive.org. And so this book, it's 212 pages long. You know, it's fairly lengthy. It's a 6x9 book. And, you know, you can't beat the price. $9.99. If you would try to, you know, get this, if you get the equivalent of this from anywhere else, you know, it would probably run at least $35, $40, $50, $60. A lot of times this stuff's not cheap because there's a lot of work involved in translation. And, you know, this is just my passion. This is what I love doing. And so I'd like to share, you know, it's just a labor of love that I do when it comes to this, this topic, you know, with the early church fathers and Scripture. I've written and published over 30 books. I've done that within the last 14, 15 years. So I've stayed pretty busy at this for a long time. And I've also written not only works, you know, Christian works, but I've also written 3 books on the Illuminati, which I do highly recommend as well. So, but anyway, when it comes to commentary on the Book of Wisdom, there is a resource. There's a publication called the Ancient Christian Commentary on Sacred Scripture, and it's published by InterVarsity Press, which they did the entire Bible, also with the Deuterocanonical, some call Apocrypha. They also have commentary on that, which are all excerpts from mostly the early church fathers. Now, I did my very best to provide things that are not in that commentary on wisdom by the Ancient Christian Commentary. They did not provide the commentary by Rabanus Maurus, except for probably just a handful of short excerpts throughout the commentary. I provided the commentary by Rabanus in its entirety. Introduction and the comments on Scripture. And then I added to that other excerpts from early church fathers. And so I made sure that I did not duplicate anything that you will find in this series of the Ancient Christian Commentary on Sacred Scripture by InterVarsity Press. I tried to make sure I provided something that nobody else has provided. Now, where the excerpts that I got the early church fathers from, with the exception of Rabanus, I found in what's called the Gloss Ordinaria it's the 1601 Venice edition, which the Gloss Ordinaria was written in the 12th century, but over time they would make copies of it. And a lot of times when they made copies of it, people who were copying it down would sometimes add extra excerpts to the already established gloss Bible called the Gloss Ordinaria. And this particular one in 1601, the Venice edition, has a lot of different extra excerpts added on with the Gloss Ordinaria. And so what I did is I went through, as I did this work, I took all those different excerpts that I found that were added in this edition, and I put them into this commentary. And I translated it because the Gloss Ordinaria was written in Latin, and so were all those extra excerpts. So whoever did this Venice edition did a fantastic job of adding a lot of different excerpts. They not only add, because the Gloss Ordinaria was a Latin work by the Latin Christians, and especially of Anselm of Lyon and his brother, they put together a lot of the Gloss Ordinaria. But whoever made this edition and put all those extra excerpts in it did a fantastic job, and they put in excerpts that otherwise I would have never found, especially from, writers like Anastasius of Sinai, Vigilius of Thapsa, Cyrillus. I would have never thought to even search that, those writers. And in fact, I really have never really up until now become very familiar with them until I translated it. And I actually looked them up too in the Latin works, the Patrologia Latina. I looked it up, and so I marked the sources in this commentary. So I put a lot of work into it. And also the other church father, Victor Vicensis, lived between 430 and 486. I would have never thought to check his works, but thankfully to that version of the Glossa Ordinaria that provided excerpts from him as well. And so that's one thing. Those are ones that I know the Ancient Christian Commentary on Sacred Scripture did not consult those writings. So again, like I said, I tried to make this something completely unique to itself. I've got sources, and even the ones from the excerpts I added from Augustine and John Chrysostom and Ambrose of Milan, and Eusebius and Ambrosiaster, Didymus, Gregory the Great. Even though those are pretty popular early church fathers, these are ones that even the ancient Christian, the excerpts I used are not in the version of the Ancient Christian Commentary on Sacred Scripture on the Book of Wisdom. So there was, a lot of hard work put into this, and this offers you something that you're not going to find anywhere else. And I plan to, I did a work like this some years ago on the Book of Tobit, which is a deuterocanonical book, as again Protestants call it Apocrypha. But I did one on the Book of Tobit in a very similar manner, and it's available. It's available on Amazon and also on archive.org as well. And I've always been really proud of that work. A lot of work went into it. I did some translating myself on that. And so, anyway, I'll quit rambling. And again, check the description box below. And to read my works for free, get on archive.org and type in the search John Littoral, and my works will come up. So, folks, I appreciate you all. Take care and have a good day.